What's up, Takeliners? No, you are not still hungover from New Year's Eve. Jason and Renee are off this week, but don't go anywhere because you are still getting a full episode of Takeline today, hosted by myself, Ashley Nicole Moss, and
me, Brandon Newman. That's right. You know, Brandon Newman from Barstool Sports, co-host of the Maybe I'm Crazy podcast with Joy Taylor. Shout out. And now producer, social media guy for NBC's Brother from Another. And I know you know Ashley, okay?
Well, I'm supposed to say the Brandon part, and then you say the Ashley part.
Oh, shit.
And it's your girl, Ashley Nicole Moss from Sports Illustrated, SNY TV, and co-host of Certified Buckets. But look, that's enough of all the credentials and the talk and the chat, because we know our shit and we know you people came here for a good time, and that's what we're going to give you, a good time. So let's get started. All right, Brandon. So 2022 in the NFL started off with a bang. It's like we couldn't even get one day of just calm football to start off the year after the crazy year that we had, because Bucs wide receiver Antonio Brown left MetLife Stadium before the game ended. Again, before the game ended, in what seemed like just an explosion of frustration. He took off his pads, took off his shirt, threw all of it into the stands. Twitter and NFL media had a field day afterwards. And then head coach Bruce Arians said that AB, and I quote, is no longer a Buck. That was the full statement. He is no longer a Buck. Doesn't want to talk about him. He is no longer a Buck. So just in terms of straight football analysis, because again, everyone has their opinions. Everyone thinks they're a doctor on Twitter or a scientist or all that stuff. What is just your view on this entire AB situation after what happened on Sunday? Because I don't think I've ever seen something that intense actually happen in the court. You hear about things like I'm in the locker room or at halftime, or, you know, when the teams are loading on the buses, but not in like the middle of a game. Like the teams were still on the field. They were on the field.
The offense was on the field for the Bucs. He was supposed to have his shoulder pads on and be on the field. Instead, he had everything off, waving to the crowd as he went away. Listen, you talked about how we never seen anything like this before. This was the most selfish thing that we've seen out of any NFL football team. This is a team game, football, where we need everyone. He quit on the team. He quit on Tom Brady. He quit on Bruce Arians. All these people that gave him a bunch of second chances. And for whatever reasons, I'm hearing whispers that he thought he was too injured to go back in the game, and that somebody said that he's supposed to go back in the game. And Bruce Arians said, you can go ahead and get your shit and get out of here, which AB did. But my thing is, AB is, what's Denny Green quote? They are who we thought they were. He is who we thought he was. This is the same type of activity you would see from somebody who would go live after an AFC Championship game on Instagram and put Mike Tomlin's business all out in the street. Like, that was a no-no. He's been, what do they say? Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Fame's a hell of a drug. AB is doing everything that ever since he became AB, ever since he graduated from Antonio Brown, draft pick for the Steelers. Steelers know the wide receiver picks, and the best thing that came out of the MAC from Central Michigan, when he became AB and got that B chain, he became a whole other rock star that can't be controlled. And my problem is he single-handedly put himself out of the running for ever being a Hall of Famer, which is the biggest honor that you have as an NFL player.
Because you can say a lot about AB. You can't say that he's not a hell of a football player, a hell of a talent. I think there's a lot to unpack here. I think for starters, I mean, Tom Brady's response to, you know, the media after the game is very telling, because he basically said, and this is not a direct quote, that we should offer AB compassion. So that just means to me that there's something that we don't know about. And if anyone knows it, it's Tom Brady. I mean, this is somebody who fought for him to be on this team. And not only that, but AB was living with Brady at one point. So if anybody knows what he's dealing with outside of the game of football, it's Brady. So I think that's telling. I think it's also very important for people to not armchair diagnose Antonio Brown. Nobody, like I said, is a doctor or a scientist. We don't know what's going on with him. I do think it is very telling also that if it is true that AB, and you played football, so you know this, a lot of times you'll have an injury, but you try to ignore it and play through it, right? At the end of the day, these guys want to play football or sports in general. You're a competitor, you want to play. But sometimes your body gets the best of you and it tells you, look, you can't continue. So if AB did tell his coach or his coaches, like, look, I can't give you anymore. I just don't have it. And that was the reaction, like either play or get the hell out of here. That's also another conversation, because that's very concerning from a coaching staff that is supposed to look out for the betterment of their players. Now, again, there's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth, right? It's usually bits and pieces of both sides. But I think that reaction, it's not like, they just said, oh, we're not going to put you in this play, you're going to have to say, and he just lost. I think there's more to it. And I think we have to be quick to not chastise him because of past behavior too. Right. And obviously we're not trying to diagnose anyone, that we don't have any doctoral degrees, but I just play one on TV sometimes. Yeah. Listen, the Bucs were down to the New York Jets in New York, and their main weapon going into the game, Chris Godwin, not to make a big switch over into the X and O's of the game, but Antonio Brown was their number one receiver going into that game because we lost Chris Godwin, and obviously we need him. He had a couple catches in that game. Third quarter, at that point in time in the game, you have to know that football and the team is bigger than you. It's bigger than whatever conversation Bruce Arians had with you. It's bigger than whatever conversation the coaches, whatever strife he has. Mike Evans went over there and tried to calm dude down. Like, RIP to John Madden. I wish I had a telestrator of John Madden was like, okay, you see AB is going mad. He's taking his shoulder pads off. The yellow marker. Yeah. Mike Evans is trying to tell him to cool. Then he throws his gloves and his shirts into the stands. Like, AB is extremely selfish, and I guess I feel offended that he let his team down more than anything. I think the selfish thing comes into play on how he left. Again, if he was unable to play because of an injury, they're saying it's his ankle. If that was the case, and Bruce Arians did say, look, you either play or you get the hell out of here. I don't know if that was the direct quote, but I'm just saying for dramatic effect. Right. AB could have left without causing a scene. The way he left was selfish. If you were unable to participate, if you were unable to contribute, and that was the ultimatum you were given, then leave. Don't be a distraction to the team in the middle of a play. This is not at halftime. This is not during a timeout. There was a game going on, like literally a possession going on. Yeah. And all you did was just cause an unnecessary distraction to your team. I understand you kind of prioritizing yourself and your health first. I think any player should do that in that situation. If you say, even if you're an employer, you say, hey, look, I don't feel well. And they're like, well, either you work or you quit. Okay, then bye. Like, you know what I mean? But there's a way to do it. And I think that the way he did it, again, is just another strike against him in a character trait of being selfish. There's a lot of things that AB has done in his career that just come across very me first. And this was just another strike against him. And it's unfortunate because the reason that he left may be legitimate, but it's kind of distracted or it's covered by all the antics that you did on your way out, Right. Yeah. And the me first thing, was it 2 weeks ago? Fake vaccination card? Like, how me first can you get? And that's why I think it's less about mental health, in my opinion, and more about character for Antonio Brown, because he does what he's always doing. And Tom Brady needed him. That's why he got so many second chances. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers wanted to repeat. They got everybody, first team to get all 11 starters on both sides of the ball to re-sign again. They were trying to run it back. Tom Brady wants to win another Super Bowl, obviously. And at the end of that game, what do we see? Tom Brady threw a pass to Perriman, Rashad Perriman of all people, to win the game. Like, Tom Brady would like Antonio Brown, but he doesn't need Antonio Brown. And the Bucs don't need this distraction. That's why Bruce Arians is taking the heat that he's taking, because he said, oh, this is the last chance for AB. So, oh, he's back and we got somebody injured. Okay, well, maybe one more chance for AB. And now he's got egg on his face for not standing up for what was right in the moment. But I think this is a complete distraction for a huge game, that MVP statement game for Tom Brady. And now we're just talking about Antonio Brown. Well, the full quote is, from Bruce Arians is he is no longer a Buck. And then the continuation is that's the end of the story. Let's talk about the guys that went out there and won the game. And also AB did not fly home on the team charter. And then that's another layer of this story. Then he went on he took a private car service. Initially people thought it was an Uber. It wasn't an Uber. It was a private car service that, the driver works with other athletes as well.
Danny Boy hustle hard.
Yeah. Then they're on like Instagram live and just don't even know where they're going. It looks like they're on like the adventures of Harold and Kumar. Like I have no idea what's
Main
happening.
Streets, New York.
It was just very odd. And again, that just goes ahead and just speaks to the me first kind of mentality when even if AB is in the right in this situation, when it comes to the underlining layer of Bruce Arians giving him that very terrible ultimatum when your player's coming to you and saying, look, I can't do it. I can't give you anymore. If that is the case, and that is the true story, it's kind of negated by everything that you did, because had you left with some dignity and said, you know what, I'm just going to leave. And then this story comes out. Now Bruce Arians looks like the bad guy. But because you left like a maniac and you was very, look at me, you're jumping up and down, shirtless in the end zone and all that stuff. Now it's like, okay, yeah, what Bruce Arians did is ugly, but look what you did, AB. Like that, you know what I mean? You lose your box to stand on, if you will. It looks messy.
Yeah, it's completely messy, but that is AB's brand, unfortunately. I mean, think about why he got pushed out of Tom Brady's old home with the Patriots. Like that was a very short-lived stint with the New England Patriots because AB's messy. The vaccination card came out because he didn't pay his personal chef. AB is messy.
Let's get into his timeline real quick so you can speak on that some more. This is just some of the stuff that has happened in AB's career. 2018, he got into a very public disagreement with Big Ben while he was still on the Steelers. That same year, he was sued for throwing furniture off his 14th floor apartment. In 2019, it was a situation with Brown's former trainer, Brittany Taylor, who accused him of sexual assault on 3 different occasions. In 2020, police in Hollywood, Florida, were called to his residence following several domestic incidences, rather. And in 2021, the fake vaccination card, and now the situation and what happened in New Jersey at MetLife. So, I mean, there's a lot there.
At first I thought his talent will always supersede, we give a upteenth amount of second chances for people who are talented in the NFL.
Absolutely.
And AB is at the top of that list for a lot of people. But I think this is it. I think he's done. He made his bed. He has to lie in it. I don't see any team. I mean, the Bengals used to be the team to pick up all the trash that was running around the NFL. I don't see any team willing to stick their neck out and give AB a chance just to catch some balls. Him in the locker room at this point in time is cancerous. And I don't like calling people cancer because I think that's dangerous territory to be in. But AB, as you said, has a track record, and you kind of have to believe who people will tell you they are at the end of the day.
What about the Rams? The Rams are looking to make a push for the Super Bowl, and obviously Robert Woods is no longer a part of the team because of injury for this season. Obviously Odell Beckham, but Odell was supposed to be wide receiver number 2 to Woods. So now they're, down. Deshaun Jackson didn't work out. He's in Vegas now. So they could use additional wide receiver help.
The Rams are fine.
Okay.
Cooper Kupp is in the MVP conversation. Odell Beckham is kind of like coming to his own now. They beat my Ravens at the last second. I can't stand the Rams now. Like they're trying to win in the Hollywood way of just picking the pieces. They're trying to win like the little Los Angeles Lakers are trying to win a championship. A big bunch of big names, but the defense is really. I mean, Von Miller stepped up. Listen, the Rams are not going to stick their neck out for Antonio Brown. I think the ownership is smarter than that. I think Sean McVay is smarter than that. They already have a Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey already punched his teammate in his face, punched the safety in the face today. They have enough going on in that locker room. I don't think they need more of, I say Hollywood Brown, that's actually his cousin, but whatever it is that we're calling Antonio Brown after this fiasco, I don't think any team in the NFL at this point in time need that in their locker room.
Well, circling back to what you said before we close out, where does Antonio Brown go from here? You said that, this may be the final, strike against him that kind of prevents him from entering to the Hall of Fame. But on the other side, we've seen people enter the Hall of Fame that have been accused of of doing some things. I mean, we're not going to name names. I think people know who we're referring to. So does that really make or does this really make or break that case for Antonio Brown?
I think the disrespect to the Shield and the teammates and the camaraderie of that locker room. I guess the Hall of Fame always talk about, that's when they were talking about keeping Terrell Owens out. The people in the Hall of Fame, there was words and rumors. Which
was a travesty, by the way.
Yeah,
a travesty.
Exactly. But there's rumors that Terrell Owens wasn't welcome in the brotherhood that was the Hall of Fame. If Terrell Owens had a little stink on him, Antonio Brown spoiled milk. I'm telling you, he made everyone sick. That milk was the same color, and everybody thought it was cool. And then they opened it up, had a taste. Now everybody's sick. Antonio Brown is spoiled milk for the NFL, and I don't think anyone. I'm trying to think if one of these broadcast talking head networks would even stick their neck out and give him an opportunity to speak. But listen, based off his music, I don't want to hear Antonio Brown talk either. During College Game Day, Herbstreit ripped college football players who chose to opt out of playing in, let's be honest, meaningless bowl games. I played football at Notre Dame, so I know a lot about playing in meaningless bowl games. So I have my thoughts. But what was your reaction to what Kirk Herbstreit said about college football players in this era not loving football?
I just can't stand these back in my day, like type of takes. Like, it's like, back in my day, we used to walk 5 miles to school with no, like, right. Okay, that's great. We have cars now, Grandpa. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, right. I don't need to do that. That doesn't mean that like you are more dedicated to your schooling than I am. It just means you didn't have the same technology that I had. Like, why are you like, why is that my problem? You know what I mean?
Right.
My problem with this is that, coaches, first of all, have done this, have put themselves first time and time again. And it's never like, oh, look what they did. It's always like, oh, he's moving on to grander pastures and bigger opportunities. But when a player does it, it's almost like you feel like, how dare you? We gave you a scholarship to this school and a full ride, and you're playing for the so-and-so program. How dare you not have loyalty? First of all, I'm here because of my talent. You're reaping the benefits of my talent. Without my talent, this football program would not be as good. So let's not forget, it's a partnership. It's a relationship. And also,
you're preaching right now.
All of these back in my day guys like to talk about how, they need the players these days need to do it better than we did. Now it's different opportunities until they actually do it. And that's what upsets me, because it's a hypocrisy, right? It's, I'm all for, the business of players getting theirs and, taking, their brands into their own hands until they actually do it. Not playing in the Fruit Loop or the Captain Crunch Bowl when your draft stock is potentially going to be affected is not you not loving the sport. It's you loving the sport enough and your longevity in it to make a smart decision. Like, unless you're playing in the big bowl games, and even then, if you don't feel like it's for you and you would rather not risk an injury that could potentially derail your entire career, then don't do it. It's not written in blood. When you sign a contract, when you don't even sign a contract. When you went to Notre Dame, did they ask you for your blood to sign on the dotted line? No. Like, you can
close to it, but no.
You can change your mind. It's not a blood deal. It's not, I have to give you my firstborn child. It's not written in stone. Like, it's crazy to me that you equate making a decision that's good for you and your family and your longevity and your health with not loving the sport. It's such like an archaic, just asinine way of thinking. And I'm tired of like hearing about it.
Yeah, it's an old take from Kirk Herbstreit even. He's back in 2019 or 2016. He said the same thing when Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette decided to opt out of their nothing bowl games.
And they're doing just fine. Leonard Fournette has a Super Bowl ring. So
exactly, doing just fine. So here's my thing. I think there's a lot of layers to this. Kirk Herbstreit's obviously just protecting the hostage situation that college football is under with ESPN right now. They want the biggest names to play in the biggest games. And at the end of the day, those players are looking for something bigger. Those players are looking at the NFL. They want to go play in their dream situation. Kirk Herbstreit's dream situation was college football. He loves college football apparently so much that he thinks that opting out of a bowl game is selling your mother for goods. Like it's not the same situation at all. I don't like the fact that players are made out to be bad guys when they're making the best decisions for themselves. And that's just as simple as, and it feels racial because it's usually always a white guy saying, black guy, why aren't you playing? And I don't step into that territory, but it's not the situation that NFL players are in. It's not the situation, like all these different, I'm sorry. I'm so pissed at Kirk Herbstreit. I feel like I could choke his little fat self out.
You want to get into the ring or something? We can set that up.
I don't want to necessarily throw hands, but the take just puts college football players in a bad light for making the best decision for them. We talked about it earlier in the prep meeting. Jalen Smith, one of your Cowboy draft picks in the second round after he messed up his knee playing against Ohio State in the bowl game. Everyone wants to be rah, rah, rah. Everyone doesn't think that this college football game is the be-all, end-all, because it's not the be-all, end-all. It can't be. And all these other coaches, like you made mention of, move whenever the hell they want to move. And bowl game season is for college football coaches to make the most money possible. All the bonuses are wrapped up in winning bowl games for college, for big time college football coaches. Players have no incentive to play in these games or to make big splashes in these games. And let's be real, all the college football players that need to play in bowl games to up their draft stock play in bowl games. All the college football players that don't play in football games because they don't need to, don't. The majority of them don't. I mean, Joe Burrow's a different outlier because obviously he is who he thought he was by the grade of game that he had in his national championship game in LSU. But if he opted out of that game and then still did what he's doing right in the NFL, I don't think anyone talks about it.
Right. And before I make my point, let me go ahead and read his full quote. So if everyone doesn't know it, now you have that background knowledge. He says, and I quote, "I just don't understand. If you don't make it to the playoff, how is it meaningless to play football and compete? Isn't that what we do as football players? We compete. I don't know if expanding the playoff is going to change anything. I think this era of player just doesn't love football." There's so many just things wrong with that statement. So many things
wrong with that.
It's like, you don't love football if you make a decision that's good for your longevity in football. Like, how does that make sense? You know what I mean? It's not like you're opting. It's not like you're opting out. It'd be different if you're opting out of the bowl game to like go to the beach. You know what I mean? These guys are opting out of bowl games and meaningless bowl games at that most of the time. Now there are guys who opt out of the big bowl games, and that's, they're right as well. But especially when it comes to the meaningless ones, they're opting out of it because they're not trying to risk their longevity in football. It's not like they're just doing it for the fun of it. So it's like, isn't that the definition of loving something, is wanting to be in it for the long haul and the long term, not just thinking in what's in front of you, but thinking what's beyond you? Like, let's say you're playing in the Captain Crunch Bowl and you break your leg and you were expected to be drafted. That could go ahead and change the entire trajectory of your life. And now what? Oh, I have to break my leg in a meaningless bowl game to prove to you, Kirk, that I love the game of football. Like, come on. That's so ridiculous and just so egotistical and narcissistic. I just can't stand it. I can't stand it.
I got tongue-tied earlier, and I apologize for all the people listening to Takeline. But what I want to get to is, it's not that these college football players don't love football. They do love their families more. Okay, they do love their brands maybe slightly more, but it's always connected to football. I think Tom Brady has really shown the power of giving your all to football. Like, the reason I'm talking professionally right now instead of playing football professionally is I was like, I don't know if I want to give my all to this whole thing. Like, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I want to kind of be landing on my feet. So I think these players are trying to set up their families for not only themselves as football players. They want to generationally change the wealth in their family, and they can do it by protecting their bodies for the games that actually matter, which are the NFL ones.
Listen, and I also would be curious to know, Kirk, if you feel that coaches who leave don't love football. I mean, somebody that you probably know, Brian Kelly, left before a bowl game and went to LSU. You look at Mario Cristobal, left Oregon for Miami. You look at Lincoln Riley, leaves Oklahoma for USC before a bowl game. And there's no type of, backlash or chastising of, oh, these coaches don't love coaching. They don't love football. Right. They just left. Oh my gosh. Like the audacity. I can't. They don't love. No, what you say is, oh, well, they made a good business decision. That's right. A whole lot of money. They're going to a better program. It's like, if that's how you feel, that abandoning something because there's a better opportunity to you is you not loving something, cool. But I just ask that you keep that same energy across the board. Don't flip-flop when it's, beneficial to your point or to your logic, because if that's how you feel, that's how you should feel about everything. But you pick and choose, and that's why I don't respect it.
Takeline is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. No waivers, trades, or lineup setting. Forget about those season-long leagues that take over your weekdays and weekends, and you're constantly checking it and thinking about managing it. You're busy. You've got things to do. Just set your picks and win some cash. You're hearing us break down these great games on the show. Play along with Underdog Fantasy, the official fantasy app of Takeline. Sign up now with the code Takeline, and you'll double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit of $10 or more. Deposit $100 and get $100 free.
For all of you who don't know, Ashley Nicole Moss is an insane Cowboys fan, and her Stars lost to the Cardinals over the weekend, and she is not too happy about it, especially because with snapping the Cowboys' 4-game winning streak, Dak Prescott hate is back. Tim Kalishaw of the Dallas Morning News this morning wrote, confidence in Prescott and the Cowboys' scoring ability has hit a new low. Ashley, I'm going to clear out here as you try and take down the Dak haters. Tell me how you're feeling.
Okay, so first of all, it'd be your own people, because the Dallas Morning News coming out after their very own is ugly. Jeez, if you are not safe from the Dallas press as the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, then it's over for the rest of us. But I think here's the thing. I think the Cowboys aren't used to having a functional defense, but not only functional, but really, really good. I mean, this is probably the best Dallas defense I've seen in years. I mean, shout out to Dan Quinn. He's doing an incredible job. And I think because of that, it has taken some of the pressure off of the offense to constantly have to put up points, right? Because you know that if you go 3 and out, your defense is going to hold on the fort and get you that ball back. Whereas in past seasons, Dak knows if I don't score on every single drive, or at least try to, or possession rather, or at least try to, we're probably going to lose this game. So I think because you now have the safety net of the defense, they're more lax, but they're a little bit too lax. I think there's a few situations. One, I think Mike McCartney a lot of times getting out coached, whether it's, in time management, whether it's knowing when to use a timeout, when to challenge or when not to. I think that, the offensive schemes are just very lax. I think they're very predictable. I don't think there's any creativity there. I think it's easy to defend. And also Dak's decision-making is just off. I don't know if that's because he is still getting adjusted. Remember, Dak came back after his injury and it was like nothing ever happened. I don't know if that's finally starting to settle in a little bit. And now he's a little bit more conscious of the fact that there was an injury and maybe of the fact that he has to play a little bit differently. I don't know if that's starting to get into his head more. I'm not sure. I can't really speak on that. But I will say that sometimes subconsciously quarterbacks, when they have a safety net of a really, really good defense, offensively, they take a couple steps back, and you can see it. His decision making is not as quick. He's throwing balls that he shouldn't be throwing. I mean, dead into traffic. It's not just him. I think a lot of the schemes are not, conducive for what this offense looks like right now. But I do think, defense still wins championships. But I think people forget the other side of that. Your offense still needs to be able to score. And,
Absolutely.
Putting up 56 points against the Washington football team is great, but it's the Washington football team. You have to be able to do that, or at least a remnant of that against a really good football team like the Arizona Cardinals, like the Tampa Bay Bucks, like the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you can't, that's a problem, because those are the teams that you're going to see in the postseason. You're not going to see the New York Giants and the Washington football team in the postseason. They won't be there. So if you want to be there for the long term, you got to know how to play that same style of football against really good football teams. And right now we haven't been seeing that.
No. And I mean, you touched on one great point of Mike McCarthy losing football games and being outcoached. He do be doing that. Okay. And also Dak Prescott you see this a lot. You talk about leaning on the complementary football. Everyone talks about it. John Harbaugh's favorite word, complementary football.
It's one of mine too, by the way. It's one of my favorite phrases. That and complementary basketball. It's one of my favorite phrases. Yeah.
Complementary. But he's got Michael Parsons over there. Possible defensive player of the year. He's got Trayvon Diggs, who I don't have to tell you because you watch the games. He lets up a lot, almost as much as he takes away. Like he's a liability at times because, the home run hitters at corner, they're usually intercepting the ball or, letting something go over their head for a touchdown. So you're right with that. Here's the problem, because quarterbacks will always get hate. That comes with the job, right? It just comes with it. The problem is who we think Dak Prescott is. He's a great leader. He's a very, very talented quarterback, but he is not elite. I'm sorry to say it, and I know you argued a lot. Brandon. We're gonna do it right now. We're gonna do it right now.
We can go into the gulag right now.
Ashley,
we are not doing this.
I'm trying to tell you, top 5 quarterbacks. I know preseason you said he's top 5, and I feel that energy, and he's showing that. But in all reality, we can think of 4 to 5 quarterbacks more consistent, more successful, have the receipts that are better than Dak Prescott. And he needs everyone else to sit around with him. But you guys need, your team, you guys need the running game to be successful. And you just don't see that from elite quarterbacks. Like Aaron Rodgers could have whoever the fuck out there, and the Packers are going to be in every game, if not blowing out every game. But I just don't, it's not Dak Prescott's fault, but I think we have to be realistic of who Rayne Prescott is.
Well, I think, the Cowboys being a run-heavy offense is not necessary. It's what it's always been, right? They are known for that impeccable offensive line, and it's been the case since like the 90s. That's just what they are known for, and it's the style of constructing your offense that a lot of other teams have tried to mimic and have tried to follow because it protects your quarterback for the long term, and also it's effective. Defenses get exhausted trying to constantly stop the run, and you break them down easier. So I don't know if that necessarily is a strike against Dak, because that's just the construction of the Dallas Cowboys as a football team. But I will say that, I can understand the argument. And before I get into that point, Jerry Jones, they asked him about the quote unquote slump. And he said, I don't want to say it's a slump, but that's probably fair. It's such a multifaceted evaluation. I would say that our offense is definitely away where we were 5 to 6 weeks ago, which is true. 5 to 6 weeks ago, they came out explosive. Dak, it was like that, the situation where he fractured his ankle never happened. And it was like, this guy didn't have a preseason. Holy crap. Like, he looks incredible. Right. Like, who is this guy? This is not the Dak Prescott that we thought we were going to get after no preseason and coming off of a terrible injury. They looked really, really good. The offense was explosive. The defense was clicking. I mean, this looked like a team that was going to go all the way. This is like a team that you could not stop. The defense has continued that trajectory, and the offense has slipped. Now, there's a lot of things that go into that. Obviously, we spoke about a bunch of them. It's the play calling, it's the clock management, it's the coaching. But then, a lot of eyes are on Dak. And that's why I hate stat lines, because if you look at stat lines, he played phenomenally. It was a great game. But if you watch the game and you watch the intricate details, for me, it's not the ability that I'm concerned about. The decision-making is off. The decision-making is not as sharp as it was earlier in the season. And I don't know if that's because it's all the noise of, there's a slump and the offense is getting outplayed by the defense. And that's in your head as you're trying to focus and run the ship of the offense. And it's causing you to do more than what you need to do. We saw the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Remember earlier in the season, Patrick Mahomes, and his is the opposite issue because they don't really have much of a defense. But Patrick Mahomes was trying to do so many different things, and he was throwing balls into traffic, and he was forcing passes to receivers that weren't open, and he would run I'm seeing the same type of play from Dak, lot of unnecessary things. when all he has to do is simplify it and play his game, and he's not doing that. And that's what's concerning.
Back to the basics. And that's what the biggest thing was. Even when Dak replaced Tony Romo, everyone at the end of that season was like, well, they're going to get into the film room and they're going to figure out how to contain Dak Prescott. When Dak Prescott isn't thinking about the big things, he is amazing. He is so good, one of the best quarterbacks. And just to be clear, I'm always going to root for every black quarterback to do fantastic and great things in the NFL.
What Issa Rae say? I'm just here rooting for everyone black.
Hey, I'm rooting for everybody black. I'm rooting for everybody black. Coaches, especially quarterbacks. But yeah, I do think that the Cowboys, I was with you. I thought Cowboys were headed to the Super Bowl. And
we're still headed to the Super Bowl if you ask me.
I was saying they're not out. They're not out yet. But if you can't beat the winner of the NFC East last year, the Washington football teams, and they're decimated by being the Washington football team, I do think that losses at the end of the season help teams kind of like rejigger what they need to do and be more polished. But I want to see Dallas Prescott in the NFC Championship game. I want to see him play in the Super Bowl in Los Angeles this year. But there are a lot of things, a lot of patches to clean up on defense, and obviously Dak needs to stop putting the ball on the ground. That's my biggest thing. He gives the ball to the other team too much. If it's an interception, it's not a bunch of interceptions, but when he gets out of the pocket, he gets the ball punched out. He got them big ass muscles. He can't really tuck the football the way he's supposed to tuck it. You know,
he does have huge
whatever
legs.
it is.
His legs are huge. Yeah.
Big ass thighs.
Yeah. Yeah. His legs are huge. I think, for me, I don't really, and this could be, I'm the competitor in me and the slight pessimist. I don't really give credit to teams for beating teams that they should beat. The Washington football team, you're supposed to beat them. They're not a good football team. I'm sorry to all the fans out. They're not a good football team. I give credit when you beat the teams you're technically not supposed to, the more elite. And Arizona, look, for all of their shortcomings in terms of the things that they have lost this season, the players that they have lost this season, that is still a really good football team. So for me, that was a statement game that you beat them, whether or not they're missing one or two guys. That's still a good team. They showed that on Sunday night, but that's still a team that you should be able to beat when you're at full strength. So I think moving forward, especially when you start getting into the playoffs, those are the good teams. There's no more, this is going to be an easy, there's no more easy win. Now you're facing the best of the best. And, it's going to be interesting what that Eagles and Cowboys game looks like, because that could possibly be a team that you got to see again. Now that they're unfortunately in the playoffs. It was
clinched.
The Vikings can't do anything right. See, that's what Kirk Cousins gets for not, that's a different conversation. I'm not even going to get into that. But you know what? The Vikings had one job for me, and they couldn't even do it. I'm done with them. I can't.
Thank you for letting us fill in this week. Ashley, where can the people find you?
All right. So you guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Ash Nicole Moss. And that's the same handle on both. Really exciting stuff coming to you guys in the new year. The second season of my show, Lace is Out, should be dropping, or we should start filming that soon. So I'm excited to get that out to you. Also some cool stuff in the works. Obviously, Super Bowl, All-Star. Be out there and make sure you guys are following me on social to get all the behind the scenes and the first to know of all that good stuff. But Brandon, where can the good people find you as well?
You can find me at Brother Brandon _ on Twitter. Just Brother Brandon. That's where I'm coming from. If you guys aren't following Ashley Nicole Moss, y'all sleep. Y'all can catch up when y'all need to. You know what I'm saying? Laces Out is the dopest shit that Sports Illustrated has done in a very, very long time. Aww. So shouts out to you. Shouts out to them. I've been here with greatness with everybody here, and I appreciate it. Jason and Renee will be back next week. Love y'all. Peace.